Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Eddie Jennings from EJSLLC.com. This video is going to be another in my series of RHCSA practice sessions where I'm not necessarily trying to give authoritative information as much as I'm just showing what I would do to prepare for these objectives for the exam, but I do intend for the information to be as accurate as possible. This video is actually going to be the first of two concerning the objectives schedule tasks using AT and cron. This video is going to focus on just AT and cron itself, and then the second video is going to focus on anacron. I would like to welcome back returning subscribers for watching another video, as well as invite everyone, if you have not subscribed to the channel yet, make sure you click the subscribe button and ring the bell when you do. Also, if you enjoy the content of this video, make sure you do click like and feel free to leave comments. I will answer questions and respond as I have both time and ability. So without further ado, let's jump into scheduled tasks. So we're going to start with the cron application itself, which from what I gather has been around since the beginning of time with the Linux world, and its sole job is to run commands at your specific direction at a specific time. Now, this can be either just a one-off command itself, such as the logger command that'll write something to your log file. It can be a script. You can tell this, you can do a bash command like test.sh and redirect that to somewhere. So basically anything you can do in bash, you can do in cron. So the challenge of this particular objective, I don't think necessarily is conceptually what happens with using cron, and then we'll look at AT a little bit later on, but it is with knowing how to configure cron and AT to do what you need to do. In cron itself, there are several ways of configuring it. The first we're going to look at is a file called Atd Crontab. So if I were to vi Atd Crontab, what you see is the basic setup of what you need to be able to configure cron to run a job. Now, in the other methods of configuring cron, you're not going to have all of this information here. But if you were to make your job by configuring Atd Crontab, this is what you're going to need to know. But the concepts of this would apply to some of the other methods that we'll look at. So here in this example, if let's say that we actually had a cron job that's going to be running under the user called username, that's what the sixth field here is, and it's going to be running a command named command, and that command named command, it has three parameters of to be executed. So all stars here with these first five fields. What this would mean is this job is going to run every minute, so minute 0 through 59, of every hour 0, which is of course midnight to 23, of every day of the month, 1 to 31 or 30 if you have a 30-day month, or 28 or 29 if you're in February, every month of the year, 1 through 12, and every day of the week. So basically this command here, the command to be executed, this will be running every minute until the end of time forever. Now, odds are you're probably not going to have a scheduled task that you want literally running every minute all the time. So let's say that we have something that we want to run at 11:30 on the 15th of the month, if that 15th of the month happens to be on a Sunday. So to configure that, for the first field, we would put 30, because we want it to run at the half of the hour. And for hour, we want it to run at hour 11. If you wanted to do a range, let's say that you wanted it to run like 11:30 a.m. and 12:30 a.m., 12:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. You could do 11-13, so you have that option as well. But for right now, we'll just stick with 11:30. And we said we wanted it to run on the 15th of every month. And then for every month, we would put the star. And then we wanted to specify that we want it to run on Sunday. So you can either use 0 or 7 for Sunday, or you can use the word. I tend to use the word just because, there is a bit of ambiguity between, 0 or 7, and it just makes it a little bit more human readable for me. And then we will put our username, which in this case is going to be root and whatever command that we'd want to run. And that's it. So the next time that 11:30 on the 15th of the month happens to be January 13th here. And if the 15th of the month at 11:30 lands on a Sunday, this command is going to run. So for a real example here, something that we can actually test on the video, let's do something a little different. Let's have something that runs every 2 minutes. And so to be able to do something like that, you would use */2. So this is literally every 2 minutes. We want it to run every hour, every day of the month, every day of the week. This is going to run as root, and the command, we're just going to echo testing etc Crontab and then we'll do a subshell date. And we're going to redirect that to temp Crontab test. We'll save the file. If I were to cat etc Crontab, that's what we have here. So again, every 2 minutes of every day of every month, every 2 minutes of every hour of every day of every month of every day of the week, the root user, this is going to run as root, is going to echo this particular command and redirect its output to TMP Crontab test. So I'm going to pause the video, wait a couple of minutes, and let's see what happens. And we're back. So I went ahead and cleared my screen and went into the temp directory. If I were to ls here, we see our Crontab test. And if I were to cat Crontab cart Crontab test, we see that this is run several times. And if you notice, the timestamps here looks like it's every 2 minutes, and it's all the even minutes. And that's because from cron's perspective, if you say */2, that is not considering like when you have saved the file etc Crontab, but literally in an hour there are 60 minutes and starts with minute 0, and /2 is every 2 minutes beginning with minute 0. So therefore it will run on every even numbered minute to be able to do this particular job. Another way to be able to configure cron jobs is by actually using the crontab command. So let's go into my home directory. We'll clear the screen here. I have a few test scripts available, and let's take a look at crontab test.sh. And this is basically going to do the same as that one-off job that we had in etc Crontab, as far as it's going to say this job ran at whatever the date is. So when you use Crontab to edit cron, you're doing this specifically for your user account, and that'll be significant in just a moment. To be able to do this, we're going to do crontab-e for edit. And notice that this has opened up a text editor. It'll be your default text editor, which in CentOS Stream here, it's going to be VI. And notice that it looks like it's actually writing a temp file. Eventually, when we finish editing this and we save it, I'll show you where the file is actually saved. And on that note, once you see where that file is, if you want to edit it some more, you will still need to use crontab-e to edit it. So one trick I want to show you, not that big of a deal in this environment which I have a GUI and I have a terminal window, but if you're at a console environment and you're working with VI, you will find this useful, I think, with working with your cron jobs. Unless you're using cron all the time, sometimes it can be difficult to remember all of the fields. And so what I would do, I'm still in execute mode. I'm going to do :R, which means read whatever is going to appear into your file. We'll do the exclamation point for running command, and we're going to cat etc Crontab. Now we're going to insert. Actually, I don't want to go to insert mode yet. We're going to dd some stuff. This looks like 10 lines, so let's do 10 dd. That's pretty close, and we'll work from here. Notice that the hash marks there, just like most other configuration files, are going to be comments, and so therefore they're not going to be affecting your cron file. Now I did chop off the first part of that, but I have enough here to know what I want to do. The key difference between etc Crontab and just editing the crontab-e is that you are not going to use the username field. And as a matter of fact, if you're editing Crontab or editing cron using crontab-e, and if you include the username, you're going to get an error unless your username happens to be the same as a command that you can run in bash, because the crontab-e editor is doing this specifically for the user that we're using running crontab-e. I believe you can edit another user's crontab. I can't remember the parameter off the top of my head. We can check the man page when we're done here and see what that is. But since I'm running as root and I've run crontab-e, it's assumed that root is the user that's going to be running the command. So what I want to do is this, we're going to keep it at 2 minutes. So *2, and again, we'll do day of the month, all that. We want it to always be running every 2 minutes. We are not going to use our username, but we're going to specify the script that we want to run. So this will be test, can't spell today, crontab.sh. I believe that was the name of it. But one thing that you can do in VI, which is awesome, I'm going back into execute mode. I'll do exclamation point. Oh, I need to do a colon. Forgot about that. Exclamation point ls root and crontab test. That was the name of it. Let's fix that real quick. .sh. And so famous last words in IT, this should work. I'm going to save my crontab. And let's see. Yep, notice it says crontab, installing new crontab. And where this is actually saved is in the var spool directory. So if I were to cd into var spool, there will be a directory named cron. And in that, there's a file named root. So if I were to do this with another user, there will be a file for that username. And if I were to cat root, we see the contents of the crontab file that we edited. So again, I'm going to pause for a couple minutes and then we'll check back and see if this job ran as expected. And we're back. While I was waiting, I realized I made a mistake with my crontab. So if I were to do crontab-l to list what's in my crontab, I had to add the redirection and the file to which to redirect the output. Otherwise, this script will run. However, we'll never actually see it. We need to redirect that somewhere. So I have cd'd into my TMP directory. If I were to ls, we see the file there. And if I were to cat that, we see that it ran at 2310, so 1 minute ago. And it will run again at 2312, on and on and on. So we've looked at two ways of configuring crontabs. Let's go back to our home directory. And notice I have a crondtest.sh, and if I were to cat that, going to do very similar to the other. Now cron.d, if I were to go into the etc directory and into the cron.d directory, this, you can put files here that follow the format for a cron job. And I kind of like this because it gives you a chance to have some kind of human readable stuff, and you have to have privileges to be able to write to this directory. So unless you're wanting to edit the root cron tab all the time, what you can do is put your file here and have it run as whatever user that you need, but it's all kind of in one place. If I were to cat the RAID check file here, what we see here is something that is going to run, let's see, minute 0 of hour 1, so 1 a.m. of every day of the month, of every month of the year. If it's on a Sunday, run by root, and it's going to run the RAID check application. So what I could do if I wanted, I'm actually going to steal this real quick. Since I'm using a GUI, I can do some copying and pasting here. We're going to make a new file, and we're going to call this crondtest. We'll paste here, and we're going to do the same thing as far as do it every 2 minutes. So we are going to have this run every day of the week. We are going to have to specify the user, which we're going to keep that as root. Remember, with the crontab-e, you do not specify the user. And the script that we want to do, or run rather, is root cronttest.sh. .sh. We want to redirect that to cron d or tmp cron d test.txt. And again, we'll pause for just a moment and see what happens. All right, so let's head into the tmp directory. And we see there is a cron d test.txt. Let's clear the screen and we will cat that. And there we see that testing cron.d, and the job ran when we would expect it to on an even numbered minute. So those are your three methods of configuring cron, either editing the Etc Crontab itself, using Crontab-E for individual user editing, or adding files with the appropriate format within the Etc cron.d directory. There is one other thing I do want to mention about cron before we move into at, and those are a couple of special files within Etc. And notice that we have a cron.deny file. The way this works is if cron.deny exists, then every user on the machine can edit their Crontab unless the user account is in this particular file. So for example, I have an account called test user. So I think it's test user 1. So let's su into that, test user 1. And here we are as test user 1. If I were to do crontab-e, I can open that. Let me make a job real quick. I don't want it to actually run, so we'll put 17, because we're not going to hit the 17th of the hour by the time this video is done. And we're just going to run logger here I am. So this won't actually run, but it'll get the point across. So save that, and I should be able to cat var spool, or I could just do crontab-l. That'll work just as well. And there's my crontab. So if I were to exit this, and I'm back as root, if I were to vi the cron.deny file, and then add test user 1 to it, I keep hitting escape instead of 1. There we go. And now su back into test user 1. And if I were to try to open crontab-e, it tells me that I don't have permission to do that. Now the job should still run. This user is not going to be able to edit their Crontab anymore. So the alternative to this is having a cron.allow file. And if cron.allow exists, then no one, with I believe the exception of root, can edit a Crontab unless explicitly added to that particular file. Now, I've never tried having a cron.deny and cron.allow exist at the same time. I'm not quite sure what would happen with that, but I don't necessarily, you might want to try it on your own in your lab just to see what happens. I would not do that in a production environment. So the last thing we're going to look at is the AT command. And the AT command is for doing just one-off jobs. I personally have not used the AT command that much, just because the things that I tend to do one-off jobs for tend to be commands like shutdown, to where I can specify within the command a time to do. I suppose AT would be useful. Let's say you have a script that you don't want it to run on a schedule, but you want it to run at a particular time. And so therefore you don't want to go through the rigmarole of configuring cron. You just want it to happen this one time. AT would be useful for that. So let's clear our screen. Let's go back to my home directory. I have this at.sh file here. Now, odds are AT is already going to be installed on your system, but if it isn't, you could do a DNF install AT. And of course, it says it's already installed. And what this is going to do is install the Atd service. So if I were to do systemctl status Atd, we see that the Atd service is running. So that would be a troubleshooting point for you on the exam. If you say that you have an objective that requires you to configure AT and you do like a little test thing and it doesn't work, make sure that the service is actually running and that it is enabled. So to use AT, what we're going to do is tell it AT, so at whatever time. Now, a lot of times you would do at now plus however many minutes. I believe, let's check the man page real quick. I believe you can give it just an actual time. Yeah, so it accepts time in the form of HH minute. So what we're going to do is at now plus however many minutes. So we'll do now, at now plus, do 3 minutes. And what this is going to do is give you a prompt to put in the command that you want. So we want to run root at.sh. We want to output that to at or tmp at.txt. Now, if you wanted, you can do multiple lines of commands as well. We're going to do Control D, which is what's going to end what we have for the at command. You can use ATQ to see if something is listed in queue. Then there's another, I think it's AT-C perhaps, and then we have to give it a job number. So we'll do job 2. That's it. So this is the actual job that has been configured. And then you can see here at the very end is the actual command that we're doing. So at's doing a good bit of stuff that's behind the scenes to be able to make your command run, but ultimately it's going to run whatever it is that you have told it to do. So we're going to pause for just a moment and see what happens. Okay, so let's go to the TMP directory, and not TMMP, TMP, and it looks like there is an at.txt. So let's cat that. And it looks like that ran successfully. If we were to do the ATQ command, we see that there is nothing in queue. Let's say that you did do a job or did have a job configured with at and you wanted to remove that before it ran. You can do the ATRM and the job number to be able to eliminate that particular file. So this was a bit of a long video. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to split this topic into 2 videos, just because even though it's not a very technically complicated topic, there's a decent bit to cover. So I hope that you found it useful with the at command and cron command, and I hope that you stick around for the next video that's going to be about anacron. I want to thank returning subscribers for watching another video, and also want to invite everyone, if you enjoyed the content of this video, like I said earlier, make sure you click that like. Feel free to leave comments. I'll respond as I have the time and have the ability to do so. And also, if you have not subscribed to the channel yet, make sure you do and ring the bell when you subscribe so you can be notified of when new content comes available. Thanks for taking the time to watch, and I'll see you the next time.